Personal flight, for most people, it's just a fantasy. Until now, an airborne revolution is underway, putting more pilots behind the controls of their own fantastic flying machines. Whoa! All right. These outside-the-box inventions will change the way we get off the ground and take us right to our front door. Do these engineering marvels hold the key to the future of flight? That's what I'm going to find out.
Inventor Dean Kamen is on a quest to find technology that will solve humanity's hardest problems. With correspondent Joanne Colin, they'll meet the mavericks whose radical ideas will change our world forever.
You know, let it be noted that not everyone can keep a helicopter in their garage, Dean.
Really? Actually, Joanne, I think soon they might have something even better.
What do you mean?
There are now technologies out there for propulsion, for navigation, that could make light aircraft a real possibility. And the regulations are making it easier, and the public, I think, is more receptive to exciting new ideas. You want to take a look at what the future really holds?
Let's do it.
I'll drop you off at the airport.
Getting to California from the East Coast proves once and for all, flying has lost its mojo. Endless lines, intrusive security screenings. This is the reality. But air travel doesn't have to be this way, especially if you can do it yourself. I'm in Southern California to meet two mavericks who vow to put the fun back into flying. Part James Bond, part Blade Runner. The Icon A5 is a one-of-a-kind aircraft that's poised to bring flight into the 21st century by recapturing the joy of personal aviation. At Stanford Engineering School in the 1990s, Kirk Hawkins, a former F-16 pilot, met Steen Strand, a talented young designer responsible for many inventions, including the Freeboard, a specialized skateboard that has a fanatical following.
Our history goes way back. Yeah, there's some good stories there.
When they reconnected after grad school, Kirk was dreaming big. He wanted to build a revolutionary new aircraft and knew Steen would be the perfect partner, if only he could convince him to come on board.
So I showed him this bad PowerPoint with cartoon planes, that kind of thing, imagine the future. And Steen, being his cool, calculating self, said, "Oh, you know, let me think about it."
And I'm up all night thinking about this thing, imagining what it could be, and I call him up and say, you know, I'm in, but I really don't know anything about airplanes.
I'm like, "That's okay, because I have no money, so I can't pay you."
Icon, just 4 years old, wants to completely change the way we think about personal flight by overcoming many of its challenges, including portability, safety, and ease of use.
The Icon is the world's first pure consumer sport aircraft. Designed from the ground up to deliver the exhilaration and freedom and fun that inspired so many people from the beginning of humans thinking about flying.
After years of perfecting their design with a team of top aviation engineers and industrial designers, the A5's unveiling was a media event, generating buzz and excitement rarely felt since the earliest days of flying.
I don't think that Kirk and I questioned whether or not, if you made a really cool airplane, that people would want to have it.
Really what's revolutionary about the airplane, it first begins with the FAA rule changes, which now open up flying to anybody who's dreamed about it.
The Federal Aviation Administration changed its rules in 2004 to create a new category of light sport aircraft. The A5 requires half the training of a typical pilot's license. The FAA also relaxed the rules of traditional aircraft design, freeing up Kirk and his partner Steen to build their plane from the ground up.
So one of the most clever features about this airplane, it has a very unique wing fold system.
The Icon's folding wings were an early design decision, but it's not just the wow factor that's in play here. It makes the plane easier to transport.
This airplane is designed to go with you, so you can fly it airport to airport or take it on a trailer or store it at your house.
And this means the plane is ready to go wherever and whenever you want to. Shall we have a look inside the cockpit?
Let's take a look.
Another critical design element, the layout of the cockpit, which looks remarkably like the inside of a race car. It's a bold, revolutionary design choice that simplifies the controls without compromising on safety. whether you're a first-time pilot or an expert flyer.
So what we've done is give you just the instruments you need and arrange them in a very intelligent architecture so that it's safe and very intuitive. This is laid out so the most important things are put right up front. Well, this is aviation, navigation. This is the communication section.
I love it. It's so neat and tidy.
You have one gauge on this that you don't have in a car. It's called the angle of attack. This is not common on small planes. It's very common on fighter jets.
Kirk, who flew F-16s in the Air Force, believes that this angle of attack gauge provides valuable peace of mind, especially for inexperienced pilots. It tracks proper airflow over the wings and indicates when the plane is in danger of stalling.
The reason we put this up top center is it gives you the performance of the wing at any given time.
And if all else fails, there's one last option.
There's a red handle right here that you can pull. You pull that down. In a half a second, a rocket pulls a parachute up, and the whole airplane stops.
But still, I wonder, is it as easy to fly as Kirk and Steen say it is? Could even a novice like myself get behind the stick? Kirk took me to find out on Icon's uniquely designed flight simulator. It's amazingly intuitive. You really get a sense of being up in the air. Flying the A5, at least on the simulator, was all it was promised to be. Fun, intuitive, easy. That is, until I had to bring it down safely.
You're gonna do your first water landing.
I feel a bit nervous, is that normal?
Yeah, so pull the power back a little bit. Keep on going down, push down on the stick a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I need to point down a bit more?
Yeah, back a little bit, pull back a little bit.
Okay, because I don't want to hit it too fast.
Level out. Run the airplane slow down like that. You just made your first landing.
Wow. Nailed it. But there's a reason we're on a simulator and not up in the air. The A5's design is still being tweaked, and only experienced test pilots are allowed to fly it. But orders are rolling in. The company plans to begin manufacturing the plane in 2011.
I see a lot more people learning to fly. We're already seeing it happening now. A third of our customers don't even have their pilot's license yet, so you're going to see a lot more of that in the future.
So what we hope is that 10 years from now, when you look back on aviation, how it's transforming, they will think of us as being one of the pioneers.
While the Icon A5 takes personal aviation to a whole new level, you still have to hitch it to a trailer to get it to the runway or to a body of water. But another cutting-edge airplane design solves this problem. So far, we've seen the Icon A5, a groundbreaking light sport aircraft. It's a remarkable plane, built for fun and adventure. But it doesn't completely solve a major drawback with personal flight: how to get it to the airport. You still need to put it on a trailer and tow it down the road. An inventor outside Boston thinks he has the answer to this problem, and it comes in a package that looks unlike any aircraft you've ever seen: the Terrafugia Transition. I'm on the MIT campus in Cambridge to meet an unconventional thinker. His name is Carl Dietrich. As a young aeronautics student, he dreamt up his airplane right here. Greetings, Carl.
Great to meet you, Dean.
His unique flying machine breaks with tradition. It operates like a plane, but it can get you to the airport like a car. So here we are at MIT, where it all began.
This is where it all started, right here.
So I got the bug for aviation as a kid. When did it hit you?
Well, I started saving for my pilot's license when I was 8 years old, actually, and I got it in high school. So like you, it's been sort of a lifelong thing for me.
While still a student, Carl began tinkering with different versions of his airplane, working out the kinks. Carl's a creative thinker, but he's also a realist. There's a whole history of so-called flying cars built over the years that barely made it off the ground. Although there have been some small successes, none have ever been mass-produced or truly caught on. But the same FAA rule changes that made the Icon A5 possible created the environment that allowed Carl to make his plane a reality.
These were the regs for airplanes.
Just a few little tabbed concerns.
Yeah, just some things that you have got to keep in mind. Those are the old rules for airplanes, and these are the new rules under the light sport rule.
The new rules are made for a simpler kind of airplane. It can only be flown in daylight and in good weather, with a maximum speed of just under 140 miles per hour. So the lighter regs were the light at the end of the tunnel.
They were the light. This was our opportunity.
When do I get to see it?
Let's go right now.
I have a helicopter, a flying vehicle that I can park in my own garage.
Definitely. Just look at the open sky here. There's just so much space. It's highly underutilized, and we've got congested freeways on the ground. General aviation is just a fantastic way to get around if we could make it more practical. And that's really what we're trying to do at Terrafugia, is try to make general aviation a little bit more practical than it is today.
You don't have to twist my arm to concede that being above the traffic is better than being in it. And the freedom and the fun and the spectacular visibility of flying, particularly on a day like this, is something everybody should be able to do. And I think making general aviation more accessible to more people is a pretty good goal.
It's just an amazing freedom, and very few people are exposed to this way to travel.
Which is why Carl's idea is so revolutionary. It's going to give the average pilot that same luxury.
So this is it.
Looks great.
This has been attempted many times in the past, and every time it's failed. Otherwise, we would see some flying, driving vehicles out there, and we don't. We've got new technology, and it's a new time. So that's why we think we can do it when it hasn't worked in the past.
Clearly, the critical challenge of the plane's design is how to make the transition both airworthy and roadworthy without compromising either one. To get it into driving mode takes only the flick of a switch, but a critical issue for both driving and flying is where to position the wheels.
Well, we made our decision to be more like a car on the ground, so that if you hit a pothole, it's not going to jar the entire vehicle and make you go out of control or something like that.
But with the wheels and weight distributed more like a car, the transition is not built to pivot upwards during takeoff like a traditional airplane.
Well, it changes a few things about the takeoff and landing dynamics. So it
So
does
you go a
make
little
it harder.
faster?
Exactly, you go a little faster, you add a little bit more lift up front, and push down a little harder in the rear. Point about
In order
those
to
rear
pitch the
wheels.
nose up.
In order to pitch the nose up, exactly.
These ingenious solutions are evident throughout the plane and are most apparent inside the cockpit. Whoa! All right.
So you've got 4 pedals, rudder pedals on the outside.
Here's my rudders. I'm moving my rudders around.
Yep.
But you got an accelerator and a brake like a car. You got a stick for your elevator and steering wheel for the highway.
The vehicle runs on an engine that's certified to run on high-octane, super unleaded. Less expensive, better for the environment than aviation fuel.
With a flying machine this unique, Carl and his team faced the ultimate challenge. Could they actually get the plane in the air?
Got up at 3:30 in the morning, pre-dawn. It was 5 degrees in Plattsburgh, New York. We'd been driving this thing on the runway at high speeds at up to 100 miles an hour. In the first few runs, he wasn't able to lift the nose. And we thought, oh God, what happens if this thing actually doesn't fly? What are we going to do? I was watching it from the tower, and I said, man, I think I can see, some space between the wheels and the ground here. I think that was sort of a moment of disbelief to actually get that thing nose up in the air, and it was just an elation, pure elation. That was the first liftoff.
This was a major victory for Carl. He proved that the transition wasn't just a dream, it could actually fly. Carl's next generation aircraft will meet both motor vehicle safety standards and the FAA rules. And no one in the history of aviation has ever done that before. This prototype has flown 28 times. With some adjustments, Carl hopes to move the plane into production within the next 2 years. But at this point, it'll still cost over $200,000, so it may not be for everyone. Despite that, Carl's confident that the transition will soon take off.
People have been talking about flying cars forever, and this is the closest thing to a reality. But what it really is, it's a more fun way for people to get up in the air. And that excitement that kind of comes along with the idea of doing something genuinely new, that's really the motivating thing.
For all of its remarkable design features, you still have to get your transition to the airport if you want to get into the sky. But what if you could take off from your own backyard? Our quest to find the next revolution in personal flight started in California, where two entrepreneurs showed us an amphibious aircraft for the 21st century. Then I went to Massachusetts, where an inventor built a vehicle that's as adept in the air as it is on the ground. But how can you truly transform American aviation when you're still relying on jet fuel, old airports, and crowded highways to get from point A to point B? I'm looking for a visionary with a plan to put personal flight in the hands of the average American. And I may have found him at an organization responsible for some of the most incredible achievements in aviation.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So Mark, I know that the public thinks of NASA as moon missions and Mars rovers, but in the beginning, it was all about getting people off the ground.
Absolutely. The first day in NASA is for aeronautics. Langley is a research center that was born just 14 years after the Wright brothers' first flight and was right there through World War II to build better fighter aircraft. The Mercury astronauts were first here doing their training.
Mesmerized by aviators since he was a kid, Mark became one of the nation's leading aerospace engineers.
For me, it's being at this exciting juncture. I am driven by this idea of having personal flight be a reality.
Mark's dream is as bold as you can imagine. Think of it as a helicopter for the 21st century, the flying vehicle that is safe, efficient, and easy to use. And you can take off from your backyard. No runway required. Hopefully, you're going to get me in there and we're going to get a glimpse of some of these unbelievable opportunities. Mark claims to have a device that just may revolutionize personal flight, a quantum leap forward for anyone who's ever dreamt of flying. It's called the Puffin.
This is an advanced concept for a personal air vehicle that's showcasing what electric propulsion can do for us. This is the beginning of electric flight.
Mark's Puffin may just be a model, but look closely, and you're going to see something that's really impressive. The Puffin begins its journey standing on its tail. The pilot gets inside, then the rotors begin to turn like a helicopter's, and the Puffin takes off vertically. Once airborne, its tail tilts and the Puffin flies horizontally like an airplane. On descent, its tail tilts back, and as it slowly comes to the ground, the Puffin's legs become its landing gear. To get the Puffin off the ground, Mark is looking to small electric motors designed with fail-safe features, which are currently available.
The electric motors are quiet, they're much more efficient, can achieve 1/10 the noise level of current helicopters. Everything about electric propulsion is better than reciprocating or turbine engines.
A turbine engine burns jet fuel, which generates a lot of heat that's just plain wasted. In fact, an astonishing 70% of a jet engine's energy is lost this way. But the Puffin's electric motors transform only 5% of their energy to waste heat. And because the Puffin will weigh just 400 pounds, Mark anticipates that batteries available within the next 5 years will give it a flight time of up to 1.5 hours.
This vehicle is designed to travel between 100 and 150 miles per hour, close to where we live and work. So if you lived in the Shenandoah Valley, you could have a daily reach all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina to Washington, D.C.
Or from New York to Philadelphia, or Boston to New York. For this to happen, however, our traditional methods of air traffic control would have to change. An automated system of peer-to-peer aircraft communication, which is already in the works, would allow the Puffin to coexist safely with all other aircraft in the sky. Now there's still that other piece. There's a whole lot of drivers on the road that can't get in and out of their garage without an accident. How are you going to make this practical for the common person?
The ease of use system for this vehicle is absolutely essential so that anyone could feel comfortable and safe flying this type of vehicle.
I am in Langley, Virginia at a NASA facility to take a rare insider's look at the Puffin, an electric aircraft prototype designed to make personal flight as simple and intuitive as it can be. At its heart, safety features that take this craft to a whole new level.
What we see on the big monitors here, Dean, is essentially the view of the outside world. In this case here, we're actually flying over Louisville, Kentucky.
Ken Goodrich is the man responsible for the Puffin's flight control system.
Try the control stick.
In an extraordinary advance for aviation, Ken has equipped the control stick with haptic tactors that provide physical feedback.
These sticks have torque motors inside that are talking with computers, and they're actually what are generating all the forces that you're feeling.
So I can push forward and I'm going to pitch down, but if it thinks I'm pitching down too much, it's going to pitch me back and push me back.
It won't let you enter an unsafe condition.
But is the software good enough to prevent even a pilot in distress from crashing? In a worst-case scenario, I decide to find out.
Cayman 345 is cleared to E-Park.
And I'm rolling into that final heading. I pretend to lose consciousness. And it just pushed me back in my seat, and it pushed my stick back, and it leveled me off, holding me above the minimum safe altitude. And it looks like it's put me back in a holding pattern, maybe till I wake up.
Yeah.
The Puffin's electric propulsion and haptic tactors are just two reasons why this bird may be pointing the way to the future of flight. And if Mark has his way, within the next 10 years, we'll see the first Puffins flying. And within 30 years, there'll be a mass-produced transportation alternative that he hopes will be no more expensive than a luxury automobile. I know what it feels like when you struggle with a problem for years and suddenly you get a new insight and you know it's going to work. What was it like when you realized that a haptic system, the advanced navigation system, and electric propulsion might make this dream a reality?
A spur of creativity. All of a sudden we realized that vehicles like the Puffin could make sense. Instead of being stuck on the ground in cars or stuck in airlines, we're going to have a new degree of freedom, a new degree of choice on how we travel and how we get around. It's going to completely change society.
Joanna, I've been obsessed with aviation since I was a kid. Imagine walking out your front door, jumping into something like a Puffin, and going from your home to wherever you want to end up without ever going near an airport, a highway, no jet fuel, no traffic, just freedom.
Personal aviation will just never be the same again.